Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Julian. I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at Apprise. And for the next half hour, I'll share an inside view on how we at Apprise have seen the financial services sector benefit from our PDF and document SDKs. I will then also jump into a tech demo to focus on the business problems that we help our partners in the financial technology and services fields resolve every single day. And I really hope that this webinar provides you with some insights and inspiration how Apprise SDK is powering the financial technology as well as the traditional financial services industry. And maybe it will also spawn some ideas on how your organization can enhance and also innovate in letting users and staff work with documents and work better with documents. First off, a couple of housekeeping items. This webinar is pre-recorded, so if there are any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat on the right or on the left. I'm not sure which side is recorded here right now, but post it in the chat box and myself will be live in the webinar to answer any questions, as well as my colleagues from solution engineering and product management, and we'll be happy to help you live during the webinar. But on top of that, I will also stay on for around 10 minutes after the webinar is concluded, and there will be enough ample time for any Q&A at the end. Now please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show, and feel free to ask any questions along the way. All right. Let's get started with what is Apprise, and I will just change my little window here to something bigger to see myself better. So what is Apprise? For over 20 years, Apprise has really disrupted the world of document technology and specifically document SDK technology. Previously, we were known as PDF-tron until the company rebranded to better encompass really all those acquisitions that were made over the last couple of years and that expanded all the document breadth of technology that is now powering thousands of companies for their software products as well as their internal applications. So those companies range from small startups to medium-sized businesses all the way to large global corporations like Barclays, Broadridge, DocuSign, just to name a couple that are particularly relevant to financial services. Now, what I would like to point out right away is that our core technology makes all the difference for Apprise on why we are a trusted partner for those large corporations. All the different platforms that we support, from mobile to server, web, and especially also web viewer that I will demonstrate with a focus today, are powered by the same core SDK. And that includes server-side processing as well as the integrations in platforms such as Salesforce, Appian, Mendex, and so on. And this is a really important component why those corporations and startups and fintech really trust Apprise, because their user experience can remain consistent and within their control across any platform that they choose to support. So just to give some contrast, unlike some SDKs in the market, we do not use different core engines, let's say for Android, for web, and then a different one again for iOS. Ours is all powered by the same core SDK, and it will then support the different platforms, making one consistent user experience, and it is also fully in our power to innovate for all those platforms and bring all the innovation to all platforms in a really timely manner. Apprise SDK also supports all file formats from PDF, Office to images, all the way to more complex file formats that include video, audio, and even more industry-specific formats such as DICOM for healthcare or CAD formats for engineering. And these file formats can all be processed and interacted with a variety of capabilities. And because there's so many of them, today for this financial services webinar, I'll focus on the ones that we found from talking to our customers really helped them the most and provided the most value. And even if you're currently in the evaluation for some of those, maybe you get some inspiration on what else is there and what it can bring to your organization. And now I will jump into our live demo. Yeah, there we are. So I'll just switch my screens here really quick. And make myself a bit smaller. And there I go a couple of times. Whoop. All right. There we are. So what you see here is showcase.apprise.com. So that's really our Apprise Web Viewer Showcase demo. It is equipped with pretty much all the functionality that we have in the UI user interface. Equipped to view, annotate, and edit. You can really plug this web component that was just upgraded from the old iframe component to being a web component. You can pretty much plug it anywhere in your browser app, your internal application, but also into mobile apps with the mobile SDK, or even third-party platforms like your Salesforce instance. So this entire viewer component to view and annotate and edit documents can be placed completely into applications for Salesforce, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, and other third-party applications. The demo that you see on my screen right now is equipped with being able to view all sorts of file formats that I mentioned earlier. And if you do not require such a user interface that we see with WebViewer, you can of course also use the server-side SDK and do all those workflows for annotation, for processing, and so on programmatically on the server side. However, what you see here is our fully client-side WebViewer solution. And why is it really necessary, or why is it so popular, especially for financial institutions, to implement a document viewing and annotation and editing tool like this? You may already have an idea because you're already attending this webinar, but just in case you need to justify it, the value that we've seen this solution bring to the industry is really that embedding this product into your own application bypasses a lot of the security risk that would come with a cloud-based SaaS tool. So in cloud-based SaaS offering, if you have, let's say, a document viewing solution or processing to add, watermarks, all that stuff, you would typically upload your files, your data, your documents that are confidential to financial institutions in particular. You would upload those to the cloud, you would upload them to an outside server of the provider, and then would come back down to the user. So for WebViewer, everything happens client-side completely in the browser. And that's really why Apprise Document SDK is so popular, especially with industries that are either really focused on performance, to be client-side processing, or to be particularly affected by regulation and heavily regulated industries. So when we talk about really the financial industry, there are a number of sub-industries, right? So you have fintech, like digital payments, neo-banking providers, and then there's the more traditional side of financial services, like traditional retail banking, investment banking, insurance companies, asset management, and many more. But at the end of the day, all these industries are still powered by processing documents. So we have moved largely digital, but you may be editing text and data and credit applications. If you're a credit underwriter, you are merging, deleting pages, prepare forms, fill forms, remove sensitive information, or you may be working as a claims adjuster in an insurance company needing to approve applications, insurance claims, digitally sign off on review and approval. There's so many workflows, but what it comes down to is the industry has largely digitized but still uses paper processes in a digital manner. So you will have to interact with PDFs and docx. And what you can do with a tool like a document SDK is to move it all in-house into your application, if you're fintech, or into your in-house internal application to make sure that there is no data breaches or security loopholes by introducing a bunch of SaaS tools. Now, I've mentioned a few times client-side, and the term gets thrown around a lot, so I just wanted to define what client-side means for WebViewer and why is it so important, because for financial services in particular and any regulated industry, it is a very crucial component of why companies and our partners really value the Apprise SDK. So what it really means is every document that you see right here in WebViewer is open completely client-side in the browser. And that includes if you have a third-party application like SharePoint, OneDrive, Salesforce enabled, documents will not be transmitted outside to an outside server. So you have everything in your local file storage, such as an Amazon S3 bucket, SharePoint, OneDrive, and so on. And WebViewer will open the document from your secure file storage completely client-side in the browser and render them. You can do any workflows on it, anything that I show you today, any annotations, shapes, signatures, and much more. And then it will go right back to your storage. At no point in time will it need to be uploaded to our cloud storage, which we don't have because it's client-side, or to any other outside server where it is subject to any interference or other security risks that could present a compliance issue. Now that I clarified the client-side value of WebViewer SDK, I would like to show you something really exciting. So I will not bore you with annotating a document. I will show that on the way because I think we've all annotated a document before. But I think what's really exciting for financial services is review and approval workflows. And for this purpose, I'll move over to our collaboration demo, and I will show you what it looks like if you have two employees. Let's say there's Ruby on the left, who, let's just say Ruby is the manager, and Ruby wants her subordinate Cedric to do a couple workflows. So this could be a loan application, it could be credit application, anything really. And we see she is interacting on the document on the left. She's making some annotations here. I'm not sure what kind of annotations you would do in that case. Let's just add some stuff here, and then she can add some comments here. She made some annotations, and then please, Cedric, can you fix this? And I'm pretty sure Cedric knows what to do, but let's just tag him just in case. So you can tag users that are part of the ecosystem with an email. Cedric will be notified, and Cedric will know what to do. And on the right, we see Cedric's screen, and Cedric saw the annotations, he saw the comments. So far, so good. What Cedric can now do is also tag Ruby back and say, like, I'm on it. Whoops. And that's not everything. He can also use a status to imply that he completed the task. And that's an important part of review and approval that is taken for granted in applications where you do use an outside server, such as Google Docs, Adobe Cloud. But if you want everything in your contained ecosystem where it's safe and secure without transmitting data, then you need to really look whether this functionality is supported. And the Price SDK has shown, and their customers are really appreciative of us supporting annotation statuses and advanced review and approval collaboration. And all this happens in real time. So if they open the same documents and tag each other, there can be collaboration happening all at the same time. Just like you would expect it from a suite like Google Docs, but it all happens client-side in the browser without those files leaving your client-side environment. Now let's shift gears a little bit and go over to the form filling functionality. That's another key use case for financial services. There are a lot of reasons why anyone would fill a form when they're working with customers, especially in a financial context. And it is not something that happens only every now and then, but it can be a very common occurrence, and you do want to be able to fill forms effectively and efficiently. So you can, of course, always do this manually by just filling each form field, but more typically this would be something that can be done from data in your system. So if you have to fill out an application for your customer, for example, or your client, you can just use data in JSON format and then fill the entire form with that data. And of course, you can always fix something if you need to, but typically this would be filled automatically. Then you can add subsequent workflows like flattening the document, printing it, or moving it back to the S3 bucket or file storage, or sharing it with your client. Any subsequent workflow can be part of that. Of course, no data will be transferred in the process, so the data comes directly from your data storage and will then go back to the document, and the document will be saved, and at no point in time is there any way to interfere with that data transmission. Another thing we can take a look at here is form field detection. That has been proven very popular with financial services, so I would like to introduce that really quick as well. What's happening very often is that you have a lot of forms and they will be updated on an annual basis, and typically forms originate from Microsoft Word documents. And what that means is once you save it to a PDF, if you do that, It will not automatically be a form, it will be a digital file, and right now you see I can highlight everything, it's all digital, but it's not a form, I cannot fill it. What that requires is the detecting of form fields if you do not want to do that all manually, and you would be surprised clients to come to us where this is a manual process of a person having to highlight every single form field. But thankfully, technology has evolved and we can offer our clients the detection of form fields and then the subsequent building of a form with all the different fields. So now you see, for example, it detected the text field here. This is a combo box where you can add different ways, the form checkbox, and you can also edit what this form looks like. So if you change the you have to build the form first, of course. Right now it's only detected, so you can make that as one workflow. You can have the detection and the building as one programmatic workflow if you upload the form. And then once you have built the form, you have full form builder functionality. So that's what I was going to show you. So you can edit the different fields, you can make them required if people have to fill them out, read only if they're not even supposed to touch them. There are all kinds of different things you can edit in here. For example, like what kind of options people can choose if they have to require, if it is required, what the name of those fields are. And those can be done programmatically as well if you have repetitive forms. But really, it's a way to automate this process. And especially in financial services, there are so many forms that need to be updated on a regular basis that it has become a very popular functionality. So if you haven't considered this yet, it might be worthwhile exploring it as well. Now let's move on to something related, which is we are looking at these forms and where do these forms usually originate when they're made by yourself. So looking at document generation. That one, again, is one of the top 3 use cases we see in financial services because so many documents, as I mentioned in the beginning, need to be generated. And usually it's PDF documents that are generated from data on the one hand and a template on the other hand. And that's, invoices, standard letters, standard communication, all these kind of things that financial services will send out and share with their clients, or is just created as a simple communication, will be merged with data. And what you can implement here with Apprise SDK is a really simple way to just use Microsoft Office or DocX documents. It can, by the way, it can also be PowerPoint documents or Excel documents, as long as you use the formatting with the squiggly brackets. And the squiggly brackets indicate the type of data from the JSON file that will go in there. So in this case, we have like squiggly brackets, applicant first name, applicant surname, company name, date, everything. And that will be populated from our data source. So I'll just change, let's just change the sender name here into my own name, just to demonstrate to you that it works. And I'll change the salary here to something a little bit more generous. And I'll change the job title to something to accommodate that. And then I'll just fill the template with the JSON data. And you can see here, it just populated that based on the squiggly brackets that were originally put in the template. So what that really means for financial services is that you can just simply write your own templates and you can easily edit them with an application like Microsoft Word. And then you upload the template as a Word file, and in WebViewer or in the Apprise SDK programmatically, the data can be merged with the template. So you can easily just create mass documents and mass communication from data and document templates. The benefit for financial services here is that, once again, all this happens client-side in the browser. So that's typically how those programmatic workflows would happen, would have a lot of data transmission back and forth to the server. But here employees can quickly generate credit reports, documentation to provide to their clients, and it's all part of a programmatic workflow that is fully compliant as long as it stays just in their own internal systems or in the application that a software company provides to their customers. And now we looked a little bit at creating templates with a Word file. And what is cooler than to create templates with a Word file? Well, it is to actually create a Word file. I'm not sure how cool that is, but I think it is very cool to just do that in the browser without using Microsoft Word. And if you have followed our releases in the last couple of months, you will know that Price SDK now also supports a docx editor. And that's a full-fledged editor of native docx files. So there is no dependency to Microsoft Office, and it also happens completely client-side in the browser without any intermediate formats. Usually for docx editors, it will essentially be an HTML website showing you what it looks like, and then in the background, whatever you entered will be converted eventually to a docx file. For docx editor by Price, it is the native docx file that is being edited, which means that once you save it to a docx as an export, it is just the actual docx that you will save. It will not be a conversion that might result in a completely different looking document. So in the context of review and approval workflows, what that means is that you do not need to download a docx file from your file storage, then make the edit in your desktop application or even in Microsoft Word Online, and then upload the file again, which can lead to a lot of versioning nightmares, but it can also lead to just security issues or compliance issues if you download those confidential documents. I can just make the change right here in the browser. For example, if there's a wrong date in an older template, I can just make the change to 2023. I can move things down. I can add another paragraph. I can change the font. I can turn it into a bulleted list. There are many of those, really normal workflows that you would expect from a Microsoft Word type editor or from Google Docs, but this is all done within your application. So just imagine you could just add this to your intranet in the bank, and your data, your files would never leave the actual application. You don't have to download anything. It's completely client-side in the browser. That's really something we have seen a lot of resonating responses in the last couple of months, and especially in the financial industry. So I wanted to have this mentioned, and we would be happy to walk anyone through a demo or further application on how you can just merge this right in your workflow to make any quick review and approvals happen really quickly. Now, this looks great that you have so much ability to edit documents. So I think maybe some of the people in the audience now might be thinking that the viewer has a lot of capabilities, annotations, you can actually edit everything, but not everybody should really be able to make edits. There are always a lot of regulations and compliance issues if every single user in the bank would have the ability to edit all the original documents. And we found that our clients find it really valuable to have user permissions on a per user basis or on a per group basis, or even the more customized options available. So with this in mind, if you do have a SaaS tool and you have access to tools such as Adobe Acrobat on your desktop, you can't really control who has access to what, or it would be very difficult to customize it in detail. So you may not just have any access at all. And that's where a Price can really come in, and you can really customize what kind of tools what employee can have access to. So in this example here, we have our document once again. And right now, the obvious issue is like I could just highlight the whole thing and I could copy out confidential data, and that's obviously an issue. So if you don't want your users to be able to do that, you could just disable text selection, for example. So right now I can't highlight anything anymore. I can still print the document. So maybe I would also want to remove the printing functionality. And downloading is also not such a good idea. It will circulate documents, so maybe don't download it. And then there's only a few things left. You can also remove the saving functionality. Opening files doesn't have to be. Anything can really be customized here, including all those functionalities here can be customized as well. And I'll just show you that really quickly. For example, here we have the same document, and right now we are logged in as Sally, who has access to all the annotation tools. And Brian, let's just say Brian is an outside person, maybe a customer who is not supposed to make annotations and look at everything. by making comments and tagging people. So Brian only has read-only access. He can't really do a lot of things. He can highlight stuff. And again, you can turn that off if you want to customize it that way. But right now, he does not have any ability to do commenting and annotating or anything like that. Now that we clarify that you can restrict user permissions on a per user, per group basis, let's look a little bit what else you can do in terms of editing the PDF for people who do have access to making more intrusive changes and manipulation of the document. A very common use case that is encountered in financial services is that editing a PDF is really useful because you don't always have access to the original Word document that most PDFs originate from, but you still need to make edits to PDFs. And the issue with that is that if you do edit a PDF, it is not really intended to be edited. So editing text in PDF is something that was an afterthought after the original PDF standard was established. So that's why it's always a little bit of a more obscure feature to actually be able to text edit PDFs. And you would typically need a paid editor such as Adobe Acrobat, like Adobe Reader, for example, won't support that. So it's a more advanced functionality. And it comes along with a lot of ways to manipulate the actual PDF. So in the context of financial institutions, once again, it's not really desirable to give that ability of deep manipulation to every single user, and that's why user permissions are so useful. Once you do have the ability to do that, Apprise allows you to edit the text content of PDFs, remove images, pretty much very freely like a word processor. If you've ever used a PDF editor to edit PDF text, you pretty much know what to expect. What's really cool here is that it has full reflow functionality. So if I add text, for example, actively selected with Apprise, it will all reflow the text to the next box. And again, if I click on this text box and I want to make it look different, it will reflow to multiple lines. It will resize. That's something that is not always the case. Usually this what you find in a lot of document SDKs with PDF text editing, or so it is being called, would be line by line. Here this is multi-line. You can increase paragraphs. You can write a second paragraph below it and it will reflow. So that's really the big difference that you need to look out for, and it's not always disclosed when you're evaluating on the surface. Full reflow PDF text editing is something that we found very valuable with FinServ, so we would be happy to talk about that if that's one of your use cases there as well and you find value in that. Next up, I would like to talk more about the digital signatures. So that's one of the most common questions we get, especially in regulated areas of the industry, that's with healthcare, financial services, government. A very common question that we do get is, what is the difference really between an e-signature and a digital signature? So just to clarify right from the start, an e-signature has become kind of the overarching umbrella term just for any signature that's electronic. However, speaking from a technical perspective, an e-signature really is just a visual signature. So think of it like an image that you add on top of a document. But the problem with that being that you can always manipulate the document afterwards. So you have your signature in there and suddenly someone can edit the price above and you sign to that price. A lot of issues can happen, and a lot more serious than my kind of funny example there. So you want to have a digital signature, and more things move digitally these days, especially in countries that are heavily regulated, like in European legislations, to ensure that signed documents can be really validated and are compliant with government regulations. And that's why SaaS products like DocuSign, which is one of our customers, experience such strong growth in recent years. Now, with financial technology firms and banks driving their products to let users and employees just do much more without the user or the document having to leave their own application or their internal application, we've seen an increasing appetite for bringing compliant and verifiable digital signature workflows into their own products and into their own internal applications. And that's really popular because with DocuSign being it's very popular and very good product, but you need to leave your application. If you want to do everything in-house or you want to increase the value of your financial technology that you offer your customers, you need to have secure digital signature workflows as part of your own solution. I'll just show you here what that looks like. So first we can create our digital signature. I'll just do this here. This is my, my initials, and I'll create it here, and I can just put that here in the signature field, and that looks pretty good. And as you can see, this is an e-signature, so really it's an image. So I can just add more stuff up here and say like, okay, this person needs to pay $50,000, which I totally didn't sign up for. So what I want to do here is to approve the digital signature to ensure that there's information on when I signed it, was the document altered when I signed it, what is the digital certificate of the person who applied the signature, and all this information that doesn't really exist when I just have like a graphic representation of my signature here. So I can click here on apply approval signature, verify it, and then you see all the information here. The document has not been modified since it was signed. It is verified. There are details of the signature when it was applied. You can kind of see that I recorded this webinar pretty late on a Tuesday. Yeah, so you see all this information. And if I were to now add the price up here, which I, would be kind of scammed to pay retroactively, you would be able to see that I did not sign this and I'm not liable for this, and everything is verified before any changes were made. And if any changes were made retroactively, it would not be a verified digital signature anymore for whatever changed afterwards. And we've seen a lot of resonance with customers, especially in healthcare and financial services, who really value this as a part of their offering and securely as part of their internal workflows. If people have to sign off as part of their department duties or with internal review and approval workflows. Now let's shift gears once again to define a functionality that we have on our list for financial services, which is redaction. So we've already talked about the need for user permissions. We've talked about security by design with client-side processing. However, there will be situations where confidential files actually need to be shared with external parties. For example, you share it with review for external legal counsel, or you just want to share this with your client, but you do not want the client to see everything that is in the document because maybe this is for a transaction, or some transaction partner needs to see documents of the other partner and you cannot share credit card information or phone numbers or emails. Many reasons, many examples. So in these scenarios, what you can do either manually or programmatically is to just search and redact certain terms. So let's say in this sample file, you want to redact the business partner name Wright, the guy Wright from PDF and Wright exporting. So you're searching for the term Wright and you want to redact all 3 instances of that. So you redact it here. This will be permanently removed. So you see the black box has been added, and that is not just a black box on top, but that's actually a permanent removal of what was under this black box, which is the redaction now. So it's removed permanently from the document. You can do that either by what I did, just searching manually for a word and removing it. It can be done programmatically by always removing a certain set of words that you said beforehand, or you can also search for patterns. So if you want to remove credit card numbers, you can make that a regex pattern, so regular expression credit card number. All those credit card numbers we added as examples in the bottom. You just apply those redactions here, and the credit card numbers are all gone. Same applies to phone numbers, email addresses, and if you have your own pattern, let's say you have a specific invoice number or client numbers, you can set those regular expressions as well, and it can be redacted as part of a workflow. How we've seen this in financial services is that when documents get shared outside to legal counsel, phone numbers and email addresses need to be redacted to share it. So there will be a process of taking that document from your internal file storage and applying the redactions and showing the redacted version to the person who requested it client-side in the browser, and then that redacted version is whatever this person from the outside party is seeing, but it's still safely in your internal file storage. And again, the person from the outside also has it client-side in their browser, so at no time does it ever leave your secure file environment. All right, that concludes, and I will just move back here to our PowerPoint presentation. That concludes the live demo component of the webinar. I hope you enjoyed the shared insights and gained some new inspiration from Apprise's work and our work here at Apprise with the financial services industry. If this gave you an idea for an application or maybe for new use cases that you would like to support in your financial technology or in your institution's internal applications, please give us a call. I'll post my email address in the chat, so you can reach out to me directly and either have a chat with me or with a product manager, solution engineer, sales member as well. And we will be happy to get you up to speed with a proof of concept to get things up and running. I will now be staying on for another 10 minutes to answer any questions in the chat. And I will also post any further contact information and resources in the chat in case you would like to explore more to get your proof of concept running or to try new features for your existing Apprise implementation. This is everything for today. Thank you so much for joining the webinar. And yeah, I'll see you in the chat and see you next time.